Welcome to the British History Podcast wrap-up show. Of course, I'm Benjo.
And I'm Brandon. And Benjo, we are here for...
Boudica's Revenge Part 2.
That's right. Season 1, Episode 2.
No, Part 2.
Season 1, Episode 11, excuse me. Boudica's Revenge Part 2. Right.
Yeah.
You remember where we left it at the end?
How could I forget?
Where did we leave? You remember?
Yeah.
Before we get started, Benjo, all these fans out there, they respond to Benjo. They want less me, more Benjo.
You know that?
Yeah.
How?
Because, all the millions of comments that are posted, they want more Benjo weighing in on British history. Ancient Roman times British history from Benjo. They want Benjo perspectives. Okay. How you been doing?
Good.
Tell the fans what you been up to.
Stuff.
Yeah. So we're July 25th. Benjo started school yesterday. 7th grade, man. How is 7th grade?
You made it describe it in one word.
Well, you're going to be able to impress your history teachers at least with your knowledge of British history. Are you very excited about that?
I'm somewhat excited.
Been playing some golf.
Yeah.
We've got a trip coming up this weekend. Where you want to tell them where we're going?
Newark.
New York.
Yeah, New York.
We're not flying into Newark. We're flying into Albany.
Is Newark in New York?
Newark's New Jersey. It's right outside of
yeah.
New York City.
Yeah, well, we're going to New York. We're going to Roots Rock Revival.
Right. We'll bank it. Maybe we'll do one of these from there. What do you think?
Heck
Would you like to do that?
Heck yeah.
Yeah, why not? Why not? I say why not. Yeah, Benjo is always busy. Been playing golf. Had a good third place
Football
outing. Football practice. Got all kinds of stuff, dog.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cheers.
Hopefully we didn't get any mic complications.
Yeah, because these are definitely all. So, Benjo, we ended last time. If you recall, Boudica had marched on Camel-Dunham and had basically burned Camel-Dunham. It was one of the capitals of the British folks, but then the Romans had kind of taken it over for their Roman veterans headquarters.
Yeah.
And Boudica's army, the British were burning everything down, right?
Yeah.
And so they were on their way now, marching from Camel-Dunham to Londinium. That's where we start.
London? Is that
right?
London?
Londinium. Londinium, if you recall last time, was a relatively new trading port. And so London, I guess, is about 2,000 years old now. But anyway, if you recall, they were really frustrated because when Nero took over and Boudica's husband died, basically the Romans reneged on their strategy to allow their policy to allow client kingdoms, and the Romans were like, look, we're going to cut out the middleman. You're not the king or queen in charge anymore. Romans are directly in charge. And the Romans were persecuting all the Britons, even the ones that were friendly to them, So Boudica's marching on Camel-Dunham, or marching from Camel-Dunham to Londinium. And so meanwhile, Suetonius, the Roman general, is 250 miles away in the west in current-day Wales. And so Londinium, we talked about it being a relatively new trading port. It had about 30,000 residents. They were mostly foreign Romans, or Roman collaborators. You know what collaborators means?
Like you team up to do something.
Right. So British folks who were teaming up with the Romans and basically like, we're on the Roman side, other Britons.
Kill.
Yeah, well.
Killing.
And so London was a wealthy
killing them, aren't they?
Yes, there's a lot of killing going on right now. And mostly throughout history, there's lots of killings going on. But hopefully, we've
Past that point.
although there's
I
too
mean,
much now
yeah.
currently too. But Londinium was a wealthy trading town, but it was terribly defended. It was also where Decianus Catus was. He was the
No, I thought it was the Canius Catus.
Decianus. Decianus.
Wait, was there another Catus in this?
I don't know that there
I
was,
could have sworn there was.
but he had fled to Gaul. He was the coward.
Oh, he's a coward.
Yeah, I think he was the one that was in charge of when Boudica's um, daughters were raped and she was beaten. Um, but anyway, Suetonius was 2 weeks away, a 2 week march. You couldn't just drive or fly or take the train. You had to march.
Yeah.
And it took a minute, especially with, the poor roads and stuff they had then. And so the Romans were trying to protect all their interests. And there was a Roman legion in Exeter, which is like in the southwest, like kind of towards Cornwall. Again, I'm not an expert in British geography, but I know enough from having listened to 450 plus episodes. But they refused to march to protect Londinium. May have been because they were dealing with rebels in that region, right? But that's going to come back to bite their leader.
Yeah.
A little foreshadowing. So anyway, Suetonius covered 250 miles quicker than Boudica's army covered 50 miles.
Dang. That's crazy.
Right. Because what do we always say about the Roman army versus the British army at this point?
They're better.
Better organized, better disciplined. They can cover 250 miles. Boudica's army they're like whole families and like women, children. They're just pushing their carts. The elderly are all there because they don't think they had ever experienced warfare on this scale, so they didn't really know what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, Suetonius, he actually decided to abandon Londinium because he wanted to, in order to win the war, he was willing to lose that battle.
Yeah.
So, Boudica's army marched into Londinium, and not everybody had the foreigners and the collaborators had abandoned Londinium. So Boudica's army was brutally killing all these folks. According to the Romans, who often, when they were writing their histories back in Rome, they were doing it for, they would write bold, sometimes exaggerated, sometimes for attention. So that's why it's hard to know how much of this is true from the Roman accounts. You know what I mean?
That's true.
So you hear about all this, and Jamie, you hear about all this killing, like just slaughtering that Boudica's army's doing. And Jamie asks the question: is Boudica really the good versus the bad? It's not always that easy. Who's good and bad? Because you have good people resorting to bad tactics, right? So Boudica's army, they burned Londinium, and then they went to Verulanum, which was another capital back then, current day St. Albans, and it had become home to the Romanized Cativolani British tribe. They had become Romanized. They were collaborators. They were also ancient enemies of the. Hey, Whit, you want to come join us?
No, I'm good.
Look out, Benjo's brother. All right, future guest Whit Smith. But anyway, the Cativolani were ancient enemies of the Trinovantes, which, along with I think the Brigantes, were the British tribes that were teaming up to Iceni. Excuse me, Iceni and the Trinovantes. That Boudica was Iceni, and she teamed up with the Trinovantes. So anyway, the residents of Verulanum fled.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, Boudica's army, they got a little fat and lazy and distracted.
They out of shape.
Not
Oh.
literally fat, but
Okay.
if you recall, before they weren't interested in looting or taking any, they just wanted vengeance, right?
Yeah.
But that kind of shifted a little bit. And now they were distracted and they were looting a little bit, but they got so distracted that they didn't attack the Roman leadership directly. And that was a mistake because they missed their opportunity to cut the Roman leadership off at its head. You know what I mean?
You know, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. So anyway, Boudica's army destroyed Verulanum. Verulanum was on Watling Street. You ever heard of Watling Street?
No, I've not heard of Watling Street.
So Watling Street was a road that Rome built throughout Britain, and it is still a road
It's still
used
today?
Yeah.
Is it like sacred? Like,
it's just very old. It's tons of history.
Do people today still use it?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe it was like a national, not a national park, but it was.
Maybe there are like parts of it that are trails. I don't know.
I mean, not trails, just like things that are reserved for history that are just like.
There, I'm sure there's parts. I can't imagine. You know, I stopped at some. I drove home from Hilton Head today, and I stopped and looked at a couple historical markers. I bet when, not if, but when we go to Britain, and we'll find a lot of historical markers over there. What do you think?
No, I think we're not going to find any. But
you by the time we're finished with this, I mean, you know, a few more episodes, you're going to be like, I can't wait to go on a history tour of Britain. I think you're already there, actually. I don't know. But anyway, Watling Street, I think that's where the Prime Minister of Britain lives, right off of Watling Street. I think. Maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, that's where Verulanum was.
Wait, who's the Prime Minister now?
The Prime Minister of Britain?
Yeah.
Of England, of Great Britain. Gosh, Boris Johnson just resigned.
Well, it used to be.
I should know this.
Used to be started with a W.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Well, there was Tony Blair. There was Boris Johnson.
The guy whose name started with a W.
I don't know. Drop it in the comments.
In World War II.
Oh, Winston Churchill.
Winston Churchill.
Yeah. Neville Chamberlain. There's been, Margaret Thatcher, but I think it's a guy of Indian descent now.
Okay. Well,
and there was a woman that was sworn in or whatever, like while Queen Elizabeth was just about to die.
Yeah.
And then she resigned. I think it's a Indian guy now.
We'll drop it in the comments.
Drop it in the comments, So anyway, Benjo, Boudica's army destroyed Verulanum. Most of those residents had fled. So Boudica's army just continued to go to the countryside and looted and burned every Romanized part of the British countryside the southern British countryside that she could find. Tacitus, the Roman chronicler, says that the Boudica's army killed 70,000 civilians plus 1,500 Roman soldiers.
Dang.
Again, sometimes they're prone to exaggeration, but that's a ton of people killed.
Is a lot of people.
So anyway, Suetonius, he's marching to just stop this onslaught that Boudica's rolling army of disorganized people are leading. So he's got 2 legions, 10,000 people, plus some other auxiliary troops, and he's preparing for battle against, again, numbers could be inflated, 230,000.
Oh my gosh.
Britons.
No, I don't know too much about a lot of people, but that's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people. What are you doing with the mic over there? So, but Jamie makes the point that let's say that it's exaggerated by twice as much. That's still 115,000.
Yeah.
Versus maybe like 15,000 Roman soldiers. So who would you think had the advantage?
Definitely Britain, I mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean in
Britain.
numbers.
But I don't know. Rome, it has a wide reputation of being the
It's
best.
like they're like a war machine, man.
Yeah. So I
You
mean,
know, wasn't that a horse?
I don't know what
War
to
machine,
expect.
wasn't that a horse in the Kentucky Derby? I think it was. I don't know.
I wasn't watching the Kentucky Derby. I was watching the Carolina Derby. That's the thing, right?
It is actually. So, but anyway, Boudicca's army. One of the main reasons that they're all together, that there's women and children and elderly and everything, is because if you left them at home, they'd be worried about the Roman soldiers in the countryside coming and just attacking them. So everybody was together for protection. So it looks like Suetonius picked the battlefield where they finally fought. This thing came to a head, right?
Yeah.
Boudicca's rolling huge army versus Suetonius, the leader, the Roman general. You got a Roman governor and a Roman general in charge.
Yeah.
Suetonius is the Roman general in charge of Britain. They don't know exactly where this battlefield was. They think it was likely near Watling Street, somewhere south of the Midlands, right? So somewhere generally in the south of Britain. But again, while the Britons had the numbers, they lacked good equipment, they lacked discipline, and so they get ready for this battle. And the Roman chroniclers state that Boudica came to the front of the army and gave a speech. They don't say what she said, but it was supposed to be like a motivational speech, right? Well, pep talk when you go into battle. Well, Suetonius gave his speech to the Romans, and it was more. He gave his pep talk, and it was more of like the war machine.
Yeah.
It reminds me of like Rocky. Like they were more like Drago. You must crush them.
Suetonius?
Yeah. That's
and the Romans were like Rocky, like getting revenge.
right.
having, but also like having fun. But
yeah, I don't know that
that's I'm just saying. But then they're like steroids.
So the Britons in this battle, they pick this battlefield, and on either side they're boxed in by forests, but there's a big field. That's what we know about it. So the Britons charged first, right? And they're charging. They're all charging towards this much smaller Roman army, and they can't believe it because the Romans aren't moving. They're not flinching. They're just sitting there waiting for them to charge. They get closer and closer. They're still not moving. They finally, when the Britons got close enough, the Romans unleashed their javelins, threw their javelins and killed a bunch of Britons. And then, as the Britons were getting cut down with javelins, the Romans pull out their short swords and advanced in a wedge formation, like you're returning a kickoff, wedge formation against the Britons, and just started stabbing all the Britons.
Were they winning?
Well, they slowly were. They were. So they were. Yeah, I mean, at this point, I would say they were. Even though they had like probably at least 10 times as many soldiers, the Romans were winning.
The Romans are like America's army.
I mean, we're very disciplined. Yeah, we're disciplined.
Well, I was just saying.
We don't have to use.
I was just saying, like in the World Wars or whatever.
Right. Yeah, we won. So the Britons eventually they're getting hit with javelins. They're getting stabbed. Eventually, they break and it's not even a like organized retreat. They just start running, and they're like running over their dead fellow countrymen, and the Romans just kept slaughtering and slaughtering. So according to the Roman chronicles, Boudica poisoned herself and her daughters to avoid capture, and torture. What do you think? What do you
So
think?
she killed
She
herself?
killed herself and her daughters to avoid capture and torture. What do you think?
I think okay, like she killed herself. That's a very bold move. And I know it's gonna hurt because you're gonna get tortured. But I think you're going a little too far by poisoning your daughters. Like, at least give them a
Well,
chance.
I know. I mean, I think you got to put yourself in her shoes. It's hard for me to judge. I mean, they'd already raped her daughters and beaten her.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like a Japanese, like, um, what do you call shogun? Or
Did she have any? Did she have any grandkids or?
I don't think so.
How old were her kids?
They were like teenagers.
Teenagers.
Yeah. But it was like, Japanese for pride, they would kill themselves rather than face humiliation or torture or whatever. But anyway, so these are some more numbers. 80. So we talked about Boudica's march that they had killed 70,000 civilians and 1,500 legionnaires. We've got here that the
80,000
Romans
Britons
killed 80,000 and the Romans only lost 400.
That's insane.
Probably both those numbers. It's probably not 80,000. It's probably more than 400,
But still, that's insane.
It is. That's a lot of people. And a lot of just,
So did
archaeology.
The Romans win?
So the Romans won.
Okay.
And this essentially ended the British rebellion in southern Britain. Remember I told you about the legion that was in southwest near Cornwall and Exeter that refused to come because they were probably dealing with some other stuff. That refused to come help the.
When did you tell me this?
Earlier in this episode.
Oh yeah.
So I have that leader as Poenius. He killed himself. Bunch of killing themselves, honor killings. So Suetonius. So anyway, in the aftermath of the defeat of Boudica, and Boudica, I just listened to like 100, maybe more episodes with William the Conqueror. I wish we had more than 2.5 on Boudica, but because I think she's fascinating, I'd like to know more about her. But so Suetonius, he was like, look, he turned his wrath against the Britons. Never again will they rebel and act like this. You got the mic how you want it now?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
That was fun.
So basically, he punished any Britons unless these Britons fought on the side of Rome, not just sat it out. Unless they fought for Rome, he was coming after you, and he was.
Wait. Why would he not come after you if you fought for Rome?
He wouldn't come after you if you fought for Rome.
Why?
But if you fought against him, or if you just didn't fight at all.
But why would he not come after you if you fought for Rome?
Because he wasn't going to punish Britons that fought for Rome. This is Suetonius, the Roman leader.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about the British leader.
No, so Boudica's dead.
No, I know. I thought there was like a new.
Well, there's going to be. So Suetonius essentially ethnically cleanses, means he kills an ethnicity in large scale. His vengeance on South Britain, the South British economy, was so much that it was ruined essentially for a generation. And the South Britons, as I mentioned, never rebelled again. So Suetonius's military campaign was expensive. So Rome recalled him to Rome. And they brought in a new guy, Julius Albinus Classicianus, and as the Roman general in Britain, more of a statesman than a general. Then there was a new governor, Petronus Turpilianus. He was also very moderate, wasn't as warlike. Then he was replaced by Trebellius Maximus, also very moderate. And so
So how long is this timeline that all these people were?
I think it's still from about 61 to 68.
Okay, so 7
somewhere
years.
7 or 8 years, maybe 60 to 68. And so the Britons were kind of fooled into thinking, well, maybe the Romans aren't so bad. Maybe it was just their leadership that was so mean to us.
Yeah.
Maybe the Romans themselves aren't that bad. So they got they were kind of duped into falling for that. But anyway, the Roman soldiers, under these very moderate, non-warlike governors, Roman soldiers, they liked looting and pillaging. And so they demanded a new leader that allowed them to wage war and pillage more.
Mm-hmm.
So Governor Vettius Bolanus was assigned, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so in 68, the year 68, Nero, you remember old Nero?
Yeah.
We learned about him when we were in Italy. This is the third
So
one.
he also committed suicide.
He did.
Wow.
Because of the unrest in Gaul, which is present day France, Germany, Belgium.
Yeah.
And so that led, after he committed suicide, that led to the year of the 4 emperors, which, as Jamie says, for our purposes, is important in that the Romans were distracted and they were weak. And in that power vacuum, you've got Venutius comes back in. Venutius was the king.
What's his last name again?
Just Venutius.
Just Venutius.
He was, maybe this was the Iceni. Or Venutius was Brigantes.
Okay.
And he was married to Cartimandua, who was the queen of the Brigantes, right? Mm-hmm. And so I wonder what they were doing the whole time that Boudica was leading this big army. Yeah. Sounds like they were like more north, because civil war breaks out on the northern Roman-British border, right? And Venutius became basically a rebel king, and then but he eventually just kind of vanishes into the record. We don't know what happened to him. But Cartimandua, his wife, had to beg Rome for help. The Romans came to save her, but for whatever reason, and Jamie doesn't really explain this, she was finally dethroned 18 years after she betrayed Caractacus. She's the one that handed Caractacus, the British leader, over to the Romans. And so she's dethroned, and sounds like it's a whole new, we're going to turn a chapter, a whole new day in Rome. It sounds like everybody's pretty much pretty Romanized at this point. We're going on like 25 years since the Romans have been there, and you better buckle up because they're going to be there for the next 350 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, is that it?
That's it for today, Benjo.
Thank you for watching the British History Podcast wrap-up show. I've been Benjo.
Benjo, my producer, and I'm Brandon, and we will talk to you soon.
Hope you enjoyed this.
Thank you.
Complete disarray.